Hi, Beth. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are
Good.
you?
I'm really excited that we are getting to kick this off and share
Uh-huh.
all of our info with the world and our private conversations, which people are now going to be so lucky to listen to.
Yes. I think they're interesting, so I hope other
I do
people do
too. I
too.
think we've both sort of taken a leap into the quantum, into this wild world where
Mhm.
everything's aligning, there's synchronicities everywhere, signs everywhere. And I think, we really would like to tell everybody about why we're here and how we've gotten here. And your story, I think, is super duper interesting. So I think we should start with who you are, what you do. Let's introduce ourselves to people. And
Mhm.
how did you get here in this moment?
Okay, well, that was quite a journey. I mean, I've literally done every job probably under the sun, and I was very lost after college. Like college for me was like more of a party
Yeah, who
experience,
wasn't?
and I was like,
Me too.
right, but there are people who, like, know exactly what they wanna do. I think that's so unrealistic for, like, a
Yeah.
17-year-old or 18-year-old to, like, go in and be like, "I definitely wanna do this for the rest of my life." So then after, it was more about, like, going into the city and being with my friends. I was in, like, advertising marketing, hated that, it felt soul-sucking for me, and then I wanted to be a guidance counselor because I guess I wanted to, like I always had this, like, thing to counsel
Mhm.
people. I was that person, like, on the street, people would come up to me and tell me their life stories, you know? So I knew I was someone who was good, like, with other people. And I was like, oh, well, working in a school is nice. I don't even know, like, I never had experience in it. I just thought that sounds nice. My aunt was a teacher. Like, I idolized her when I was a kid. So I think, like, in my head, I was like, that's what you want to do, but not be a
I think
teacher.
you would have been a
Then my
good
mom's
guidance
friend,
counselor. I mean, you're better at what you're doing now, but I don't know. I could
mm,
see that.
no, because it's like you don't actually like I was a school
Mhm.
social worker. So that was more aligned with like what I wanted to do. And my mom's friend was like, don't do guidance counseling. Like if you don't like it, you're stuck. So I
Mm.
did social work and it was like a nice boot camp to like get yourself out of your bubble. Worked in schools, didn't really like it. Like I like working with people, first of all, adults, and I like working with people who want to work with me. Then I worked in a private practice as a psychotherapist in Soho. Then I was a clinical director, and I'm like, I need to go out on my own. I need to like work how I want to work. And I opened my practice, and then a client who is not to be named because we can't do that. Like one day, like we were very aligned, and one they were very spiritual too. And one day, like their great grandmother popped into my head, and I was just like, "Do you have a great grandma who lived on a farm in Italy?" And she's like,
And
"Yes."
super specific too, like on a farm, and you're
Right.
like on a farm in Italy. I feel like that's not something that everybody can relate to. I mean, I don't know. Maybe everybody's on farms in Italy,
Right.
but that is a very specific thing to say to someone.
Like, right. Well, that was like my first, it wasn't my first case of clear cognizance. Like there were things like I knew throughout my life were going to happen, you know? Like I knew I was going to get a solo or I knew I was going to University of Delaware. I knew like specific things like I didn't even have to doubt. This was one of those things like I don't know why I know that. I just do. And I just knew the time period because I didn't have running
Right,
water. It was like a like porcelain
right.
basin. And then kind of from there it like took off. I'm like, holy crap, I have this thing and I can't really use it in therapy. Like, what do I do? I started seeing psychics like every week, and I was just everyone confirmed you are meant to do this. You're a medium. You're a witch. Like, and it's like, what do you do with that information after? Because like I'm such a bulldozer. I'm like, okay, so how do I get there? How do I be amazing at this? And it's the type of thing where you have to have patience. And I think like being on my own self journey of like I've been in therapy for like 8 years myself, working through a lot of traumas I didn't know I had, and like really peeling back the layers. Like I found like Akashic record readings were really helpful to understand my past lives and like my behavior like that didn't feel like mine. Like why am I acting this way? You know? So therapy I love, and I don't think there's like a magic bullet of like one or the other. It was really incorporating like different things. Like I had Lyme's disease, all the co-infections, and like that was a learning experience. Like you realize it's related to trauma. You have to figure out how to advocate for yourself. You have to like kind of sit with yourself for so long that you're just like, okay, like I'm going through this experience. So it was like all these different things. And then I just like decided I was going to start this soul reading. Like I started with the oracle cards and I was like reading everybody in Jersey City. I'm like, "Come, I'll do a reading for you." And I noticed like the people who were open, it was so
Mhm.
easy. Like my friend Jenna, her grandpa came through. This was like a really wild story, and she was very close with him. And like things just came up where she was like crying. She's like, "That's so amazing." And I'd ordered a very large grocery delivery from Whole Foods, and it was like $400. I don't normally spend that much on groceries, but I was like, I don't have time to go. I'm treating myself today. And before the session, I had ordered it. And I didn't realize like it came, I guess, during that time. But then right after our session, it like I got an email that said it was canceled and there's nothing they could do. They're refunding me the money. I like tried going on the app. You can't do anything. I tried calling. They're like, well, like it already was canceled. So
Oh
enjoy
my
your
goodness.
food. And and something in me was like, ask Jenna. I'm like, how did your grandfather like pay people? She's like, in food. So it was like this really like
Oh my
wild, weird thing.
God. And also so lucky that you didn't
Yeah,
have to pay them.
yes. I was like, and I was just like having a heart attack about like
Yeah.
spending that much
Yeah,
money
thank you,
anyway.
Grandma.
But it was like, right. I was like, thanks, Grandpa. Like, I appreciate it. I'll look out for her and continue to buy my
Oh my
groceries.
goodness. I'm curious, because you're talking about like your experience with your past work life and all this stuff. I'm curious, as a child and growing up, did you get visitations from people? Did you have moments of this claircognizance? Like, did that happen to you as a child?
Well, the
Yeah.
claircognizance, like there were just things I knew,
Yeah.
like when I was a singer, and like so I was, I think I was like 8, and like my friend was trying out, like I was really young for my grade, and my friend was really old, and the cutoff was like 9, and it was this traveling singing group. I think it was called like All Children's Theater or something. And yes, I was in it all like a traveling singing group when I was younger, and you like dance, like you did these like ridiculous things, and I would have been with like 4 to 8 year olds. And I was like, I really want this. And I'm like, I'm just going to get in. They're going to make an exception for me. And they did. And I
Oh
was
my
with the
God.
older kids. And yeah, then I was in this, we had something called Showstoppers. I thought I was going to be on
This
Broadway
is
when I was
amazing.
younger.
Also, just recently, not to go totally off topic, but just recently you received a download about using your voice. And so
Voice.
now that I
Yes.
understand that, that's connecting a dot for me of
Yeah.
like a lot of your magic does come through your voice, I guess, whether singing or
Yes.
speaking. So that's so interesting.
Yes. And it's so funny because I worked with, like when I was in grad school, I worked in this nursery like summer camp, and I guess I just like have a sing-song voice, and the kids are like, "Stop singing." I'm like, "I'm talking." But then another girl is like, "Can you just record your voice for me? It just like soothes me."
Oh,
I'm like, "Sure." I'm like, "If you'd like me to,
oh my
yeah."
God. I love
So
that so much. My daughter's always singing. She sings herself to sleep.
yeah.
So,
There's something magical about singing, and if you really look back at like ancient civilizations, religion, like, and just even now, like that's how people connect, that's how people like get spiritual. There's something like so unbelievable about music,
mhm.
singing, dancing,
I
which your stuff is all connected to dancing, which is
Yeah, it's
insane.
so true.
So
I'm obsessed with sound and frequency and watching these ancient alien shows I'm like very into. And
mhm,
they always show these ancient, what's the word, like ancient buildings that were built on certain
mhm,
vibrations of sound for connecting with
mhm,
higher consciousness. And so they were doing that kind of stuff, singing, dancing,
yeah,
listening to the vibrations so many years ago. It's so yeah, we'll have to do like a whole episode on that because it's so fascinating. And maybe I'll
Yeah. I know there's like, I forget, I think it's in Giza in Egypt. I don't remember where. I think where all the
Mhm.
pyramids are, but there is like a dedicated like hall for
Mhm.
vibration where they used to go to
Yeah.
heal.
Yeah, I
Like,
think it's like Gobekli Tepe or something. I feel like that's what it is. I'll have to like look it
yeah.
up. But yeah, they're always
Yeah.
talking about that and like these tunnels and these places that they built that are like
Mhm.
for sound vibration. So you were obviously doing this a very long time without even realizing you were doing it.
Yes. Totally, yeah. And like your dance, I like so just to catch up, like now I'm here trying to do a soul guidance. Like I really like help people when they're stuck and I channel and it's like kind of combining the therapy piece.
Mhm.
And I recently had a session with another therapist and she's like, this is so good because you keep people at ease, you
Mhm.
ground them and you can contain the space for them. But then you channel and like you know exactly what's going on, you have like steps for people to take, you have rituals that you just channel, and it's just like I don't know where this stuff comes from, it
It's
just
so
happens.
what you do is so, so helpful. I've been to 1,000 readers, anybody who's on a spiritual journey, and I'm guaranteed, like, anybody that's listening to this is on this journey in some way, shape, or form, right? Like,
Right.
okay, so
Right.
you understand that
Right.
whole piece of going to a million readers to going to all the psychics,
Mhm.
going to all the things. And a lot of times you get information and you don't know what to do with it. And I think that what you do that's
Mhm.
so awesome is you connect the information in practical ways. Like you do, like you're like, okay,
Right.
this is what this means. Like, oh, you saw this sign, this thing
Mhm.
happened. So you help people to, like, I think, decipher what's coming through in a very clear way. Like, if, as an example, like, Beth has done soul guidance stuff on me, and like, I'll be like, oh, I think this past life came through. And then you'll be like, okay, well, this is what happened, and this is what you need to do to clear it. And then you give very precise directions. And that's
Mhm.
what's missing from a lot of readers because you're like, okay,
Right.
great, I have this information. What do I do?
Right. 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 Yeah, and like I think what's really unique is like it happened like I had this stuff coming in, but like what you do, and I think this is a perfect segue into like you telling your story, is like you awoke something in me. Like I swear to God, after our first session, like my hands like vibrate every time I meditate. Like I am just like all these things come in so much quicker. And it's like you're like, hey, I'm just gonna wake the world and the light workers and I'm gonna get you all to like make this world a much better place.
It's
So tell us about like what you do, your
yeah.
journey, how you
Oh my
got
goodness.
here.
I feel like just like you, I've just lived so many lives. It's like I don't even know what story I'm telling anymore. I'm like, okay, like what is the journey? So I've also, did the whole corporate thing for a long time. As you know, I was very much struggling to get out of corporate America, but also very tied to like I went to school for marketing. I was very much tied to like I have to do this to make money. Like I'm making money and this is what I'm good at also, which was like really I
Mhm.
think is hard for people
Yes.
when you're like, I'm making money doing something I'm good at, but it's sucking my soul and I hate it. And you're like, so it's like
Right.
very hard to just be like, I'm gonna quit my job. And the way that I always explain like my spiritual journey is like I really had like a quantum leap in 2021. Like I was going through a physical healing journey of Lyme as well. And Beth and I both believe this of like a lot of people that are on chronic illness journeys are people that end up on spiritual journeys. It's like something has to like interfere.
Mhm.
So I was on this
Yeah.
journey with chronic pain, chronic illness, and I remember I was up in the middle of the night one night and I was like, "Oh my god, I am in a prison of my own making. Like I have the key. I have to let
Mhm.
myself out." And after that, I was doing a lot of healing work with like my relationship with my father, all this stuff, like all my reprogramming. I was looking at all of my beliefs and I was like, well, why am I this way? Like, why do I think I have to work? Why did I get sick? How did this all happen?
Mhm.
And I had had a really important conversation with my father on a Sunday where we had used to work in the same industry. So it was very important to me to impress him and have him feel like this is, and he
Mhm.
finally was like, do whatever you want to do. Go be happy. It doesn't matter to me. And it was so healing for me. And the next day, I had gone to work. I was working from home, but I was working. Went outside into the park next to my apartment, and I literally raised my hands to the sky in this like park that I used to go to meditate and just be quiet. And I was like, I'm ready. Like, I'm done. I cannot take any
Mhm.
more. And a few hours later, I lost my job. Like, the
Mhm.
universe intervened. They were like, "You cannot do this anymore. You
Yeah.
cannot do this." And I, of course, was devastated. I got COVID, right? Like, literally, like, a day later. I was, like, so ill and,
Mhm.
like, not okay. The universe was like, "You cannot do anything." And then I really, like, went on a journey of working for myself, and everything sort of started happening from there. Like, once I started making money, I started being able to work for myself. And then when I got pregnant with Aria, everything changed again, because this is how life is so seasonal too, right? Like, all these things change. So I
Mhm.
got I got pregnant with
Totally.
Aria, and I didn't really feel connected to the type of work that I was doing, which was more like in the physical realm of things, like physical healing. It's still
Mhm.
important, but I felt like there was something missing. And I just felt really lost. I really struggled during pregnancy to like connect into like the digital age. Like, I just felt like I just couldn't. So I was
Mhm.
just meditating all the time, doing breath work all the time. And I used to automatic write, because I knew that my gifts came in from clairaudience. So I knew that words were something that I always connected with. So I knew that if I was writing, I could get somewhere, but I couldn't do like total cohesive thoughts like I do now. Like, now I can like write a whole story that's channeled through, but it would just be
Mhm.
like words or like pictures or like scribbles. And I remember
Mhm.
writing Kundalini like a million times. I remember telling you, I'm like, I see a white snake, like I'm writing Kundalini, I'm writing Shakti, like what is going on? What am I meant to do? So I obviously thought I was meant to be a Kundalini yoga teacher and started studying that. And then I was like,
Uh-huh.
this is way too rigid for me. This is weird. This is something going on with this. Not necessarily weird, but it was like there was something that felt off for me. Like, I was like, I'm vibing with the content, but I don't want to do it the way that it's being taught to me.
Right.
So, and as you know, I can't do anything prescribed. Like, I can't be like, you have to do this chant with this hand movement. Like, that's never going to work for me. Like, I
Right.
might want to stand on my head,
Right.
and I can't. So it's just like, it
Right.
wasn't working for me. And then one night I had my daughter. I went through like the birth portal essentially, right? Because like that's when the veil is literally
Mhm.
thinnest, right? Like, you're creating life
Right.
into this world.
Right.
I was up and I was feeding her in the middle of the night, and I saw a video of someone doing Kundalini activation, and it blew my mind. Like, I was like, this person was like flailing on the ground, and I was like, that is terrifying. Well, I need to do this immediately. Like, this is what I need to do. This is it. Like, I know that this is it. And then I like went on that whole journey. I got activated so many times since then, and it really activated within me. And from there, I was able to make it my own with all the other modalities I had studied over the years. So when I was trying to find myself, right? Like, all of the things that I did that I was trying to
Mhm.
find myself and nothing was clicking, I brought into the Kundalini. So the Kundalini essentially, right? Like, the energy of Kundalini activated within me it my gifts, right? It
Mhm.
strengthened my gifts. Now I can channel more clearly. I can speak light language. I can do all of these things. So when I'm working on other people, it activates that energy within those people. And so it clears the things that need to
Mhm.
go, but it also activates it and everyone's unique gifts. So
Mhm.
it's so cool and so interesting. And I think for me, like, I spent all these years thinking that like my role was a healer. And then I think the big pivot was like, no, 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 I'm here to ignite. I'm here to awaken. I'm here to like wake people up
Mhm.
and like have them do like then heal others, heal themselves, like do all of that stuff.
Right.
So now I'm here doing it all the time.
Right. Right. Well, it's like you're like the first you push the first
Yeah.
domino and then you create this domino effect, which is so cool. And one thing like okay, so I think I was the first person you activated who had this experience, but it was so weird. So I it's almost like you're like tripping. when you're like being activated. The meditation that I go into is like crazy. And I think it was like the second or third time you did it. And all of a sudden I saw myself doing this like ancient dance in this like stone tower. And I remember it like a movie. That is the clearest thing I've ever seen of myself. And I was doing somersaults. I was in this like sports bra and leggings, like my perfect ideal self. It was just like, hey, I'm here and we're gonna wake some shit up, you know? So, but it was so like crazy, but it like stays in me forever. And then like you've said that like other people are like, oh my god, I saw
Yeah.
myself dancing. Like you you awaken this like
Yes.
dance in people, and it's like this crazy like it's so symbolic of something that I can't even put the word to, but I think that's like part of the
Yeah, it
awakening.
is. And it's you were the first person to tell me. Then I hosted an in-person class and somebody raised their hand and was like, I saw this ancient dance. And then everybody in the class raised and I saw it too. And I was like, and then I did a group, sort of like immersion series, and everybody was seeing it. And it's so funny because
Right.
to me, like, I feel like it is that divine feminine. It's that Shakti, that it's like
Right.
the archetype of the goddess, right? Like embodying the goddess
Right.
energy, and that's really what it is. And it's so funny because I started using ChatGPT to help me with random things, and it thinks I have this
Mhm.
it thinks I have a program called the Goddess Initiation Program, and it always like talks about it. And I'm like, I don't have that, but if you want me to create it, you can go
Yeah.
ahead and create it because it's always like, let people know about your goddess initiation. I'm like, okay.
I mean, that says something. I'm sorry. I'm getting parched because I'm getting so into it. But I think something else you said was like so interesting, and it brought up a memory that's probably relevant to this. But you said like what started it is like you basically like your dad gave you permission and then you gave
Yeah.
yourself permission. And I've heard so many instances of that when people like hold on for another family member
Mhm.
and they're ready to pass. Like my grandfather, my mom went to him and was like, "It's okay, dad,
Mhm.
like you can go." And the next day he was gone.
Yeah.
So it's just, and I think the like theme of like both of our stuff is all these deaths and
Mhm. Yeah.
rebirths. So it's like, how do you get permission from those you think you need permission from? How do you give permission to yourself to be like, we can let this part of ourselves
Yeah.
die and like we can be reborn? And like, I think for both of us, we wouldn't have wanted to experience every single thing that we went through, but I'm so
Mhm.
grateful for it because of where I am now. And like, I wouldn't change anything really. And I've been through pretty brutal things, and still, like, I love how I got here
Yeah.
and what I've learned from it, and to show like my resilience, to show myself I have gifts. Like, I still doubt myself. And this week, I had a dream about my therapist, and it was like the weirdest thing in the world, and I don't even like remember my dreams fully. First of all, I felt like I didn't even dream for so long. But I recently stopped like gummies, like all substances, and they've been very vivid. And
You
but
don't
like
need
I'll be
them.
like in the
Your
dream, I'm like,
brain is enough.
no, no, my brain is like spinning off the planet as it is. But I don't know. It was like always a thing to help like me like decompress because I don't drink, and I haven't drank for probably like a
Yeah.
decade really. Like I'll have like here and there. It doesn't agree with me. So I was like, I don't want to be lame and like not do anything, but But then now I'm like, I'm actually so much better just
Yes.
sober.
Yes.
So anyway, so I had these like very vivid dreams lately, but I never like remember them after unless I write them down, and I just am too tired to write them down. But something about this was like, you will remember this. I remember in the dream, it's like, you're gonna remember this. And I woke up, I'm like, you need to remember this. And later that day, I had a session with her. I'm like, it was almost like I couldn't do anything until I said it to her. And I'm like, hey, I had this like, you were in my dream, which is really weird. I don't normally dream about you, but like, we were in a restaurant and you were sitting there and you were like, I'm pregnant. And I'm like, but you don't look pregnant. And then your belly grew and then you had to go to the bathroom. And I'm like, are you coming back? And she said, and this was so weird. She's like, yes, this time I am, which is like
Yeah.
such a weird thing to
Like
say
just
to
go to the
someone,
bathroom and not come back.
Right. Exactly. Well, so like the first time she had a baby, like I think it was 2021, she closed her practice for like 6 or 7 months. And of course, I like went through the worst period of my life, and I'm like, I need her. I was like so
Mhm.
devastated. I was so excited when she came back. Like, thank God. And like, I knew she was gonna come back. Like, just part of me knew. And she's like, yeah, part of me knew too. But anyway, I'm like telling her this. She's like, well, I'm pregnant. She like her face like dropped, and then she's like, and I'm doing it differently this time. Like I'm not closing.
Mhm.
So it was just like such a confirmation of like really when you ask the universe for things, like it is going to bring it to you. And it's so funny because I do that Joe
Mhm.
Dispenza meditation, morning meditation, and the like last sentence of it is like, from this consciousness, show me
Yes,
something
like a
from this
sign. Yeah.
consciousness, and right, in the least
Yeah.
expecting way, you know. And it was like I couldn't have asked for like clearer. And then I was listening to that Nikki Novo podcast
Yes.
you sent me, and she's like, you're gonna have a
Yeah.
premonition. Like an hour later, my dream literally came true, and I'm like, this is so wild. Like I
You
can't
can't
make
make it
this
up. I
up.
think that's the whole thing too, is like, and just back to permission for 1 second, like a lot of people have these gifts, they feel these things, they just know these things, but they have
Right.
been so programmed to believe that it's not real, they can't
Mhm.
do it, or it's scary. So I do think
Right.
like there is a permission of like you can kind of come out of the spiritual closet with all this stuff now, and it's normal and it's okay, and you're not going to be burned at the stake,
Mm,
right? And it's okay to
right.
do that, and not be the weirdo or get persecuted. So I feel like there's that
Mm,
permission of like allowance of like, okay, you can do this now, that like everybody kind of goes through. And also,
right.
first of all, I don't know why you need signs from the universe at all. You're so good. You get confirmation all the time. Beth is like never wrong
Yeah.
about her visions. I'm just gonna say that because you'll never say that. But she is always like on point, and I trust you. I have been to so many people, and I trust you fully. I have a chill just saying it. Like I fully trust you
Oh, thank
that
you.
you're not going to say anything irresponsible. You're not going to lead anybody astray. Like you're going to say the things that come through, and those
Mhm.
things are usually accurate and they're always helpful. So I think that that's like
Right.
really, you don't need a sign, but
Yeah,
the
I
confirmation
know, but
is helpful. Yeah.
right. But you know what? That's part of my permission, right? And like I'm still going, and like sometimes it's not like a wham bam, like I gave myself permission. It can be an ongoing
Mhm.
process of like allowing myself, like I'm very slow in things, like as is just like who I am. And like I want to bulldoze, but like my natural process is very slow
Yeah.
and drawn out, which drives me nuts. But like I think even from the summer till now, like I've been giving myself permission in a very low and slow
Yeah.
dosage, you know? So it's just like for me, every time I get that confirmation in such like
Yeah.
an in my face way, it's like I am
Yes.
allowing myself to do this. I am more comfortable. And I think we found the theme of this like podcast today is we give you permission
Yes.
to be who you really are and
Yeah.
accept your gifts. And we give ourselves permission. And like I think this is the most authentic way we've shown up so
Mhm.
far, to just be ourselves, share what we go through, and really like show and model for others like you're not
Yeah.
weird. Like maybe you are, but
Yeah,
not
but it's
because of
awesome.
this.
It's awesome to be weird.
Yeah,
And I think
exactly.
I think that's a really good, like, I think segue into just quickly touching on what we want this podcast to be about, so that people just have an understanding, because
Mhm.
I really, there's so many things in this conversation that I like really want to dive into. Like I want to talk about how our gifts, how information comes to us. I think that's something that people are really going to want to
Mhm.
know, how
Yes.
we decipher them. Even talking about claircognizance in general, like that's such a tough one. You do kind of need confirmation and signs for that, because it's the hardest one to like
Yes.
be like, oh, this is real. So I think,
Right.
at least for me, showing people that it's okay, showing people that it's not weird, or it is, and that's totally okay. And
Right.
the reason why we're doing this is because it's become undeniable to us. We cannot unsee the things that we've seen, and everyone is waking up, and there needs to be a space where it's normalized. Like I think that a lot of this the spiritual
Yeah.
spaces, a lot of people are like floating on a lotus flower. And I see them and I'm like, where is the space for the in between people who are just like living a regular life,
Right.
and
Right.
also experiencing all this magic in their day-to-day life?
Totally. And it's just like I'm never gonna be that person who's like talking in a certain way and I'm like floating everywhere. Like I'm very sarcastic, you're very sarcastic, you know? Like we have a lot of laughs in it. It's very normal. It's like having a conversation, but then all of a sudden something really
Yeah,
crazy will pop
yeah,
up, you know?
1000 or like we'll be talking and there'll be like a bird that'll fly and I'm like, oh my god, Beth, a bluebird.
And I'm like, okay, so the spiritual meaning of this is, and it came to you because of this, you know? And now you need to do a ritual around
Yes,
that. So,
exactly, exactly, and that's perfect, and that's exactly what I need in life, and I do think, like, all that stuff, I think we're gonna be decoding a lot of things for people, I think we're gonna be normalizing things, I think people are going to listen to these conversations and see themselves in these conversations,
yes,
and ooh, and that gave me a
yes,
chill, so that's my confirmation, like, I do
yeah,
think that they're gonna find themselves within us. And yeah, so you're allowed to be you. And we just want you guys to enjoy these conversations and hang out with us. And just like it's, two girlfriends just chatting about life.
yeah, yes. And I want everybody to accept all parts of
Mhm.
themselves, obviously, but this part, like we're told, like you said, so many times, like, this isn't normal, this isn't real. It is real. Like, neither of us can deny anything we've experienced.
Mhm.
So, if that's something you've experienced, like, welcome. And we're here too. And, like, you're not
Yes.
alone.
Yes. And then I just think of the ancient aliens. You've never been alone. You're not We've never been alone.
Exactly.
So that the truth is out there,
Right.
and it's right here. So
Right.
thank you all for listening. I'm really excited. This is really just the first of many on this journey, and yeah, like do all of the things. Leave us a comment, reach out to us if you want to talk more about different things, and yeah, we're excited to keep it going.
Yes. Thanks so much for listening. And we can't wait to do our next episode. So stay
Bye.
tuned. Bye.